always said that good advice is priceless. And I've been fortunate enough to receive some of the best advice in my life from those that I work with. And so I'm going to share some of that with you today. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my story. When I was a little girl, I desperately wanted to be a marine biologist, certain that it would mean swimming in warm water with dolphins every day. Needless to say, I had no idea of what marine biology actually meant. And to be honest, I'm still trying to figure this out. But this is because when you study biology, you're not studying one profession, you're studying a field. And how you apply what you learn is varied. You could go into so many different things. You could become a researcher or a deep sea diver. You could be an ocean activist or a science teacher. The options are endless. This is why getting experience early on is valuable, because you can see what the day-to-day activities look like, and then you can bridge that gap in your mind between what's your imagination and what's reality. For me personally, it was during the Young Biologist course in grade 10. There's a picture of me a few years ago. And becoming a volunteer at the aquarium that helped me realize that even though my initial idea of what a marine biologist was quite skewed, it was still completely and absolutely what I wanted to do. So get your hands dirty, job shadow, volunteer, intern, do everything you need to do to make sure that you're able to jump into what you love with both your eyes open. Jump into with both your eyes open. Yes. So for me, having that certainty of what I wanted to do really helped keep me motivated as I studied and looked for work, and ultimately helped me in getting the current job I have. Now, I work at the Two Oceans Aquarium, where I help to run our turtle rehabilitation facility, where we rescue, rehab, and release fit turtles back into the wild. Now, we have 7 species of sea turtle around the world, and all of them are to some extent endangered. We've seen 5 of those turtles, 5 species, in our rehab facility. We have 2 species that nest on our southeastern coastline, the loggerhead and the leatherback turtle. And every year, females lay their eggs on the beaches of our southeast coast. And once they've done that, there's a couple of months of incubation, and then these little eggs hatch, and these little turtles scamper their way down to the sea. When they reach the ocean, they catch our warmer Gullis current, and they drift all the way down our coastline. But they're small and vulnerable, and this means that they wash up on our southern coastline with dehydration, hypothermia, and often with quite severe injuries. And so our goal is to try and rescue these turtles, to bring them to our rehab facility, where we can provide them with a hospital, basically. Give them the care they need, the medical care, the food, everything required so that they can get fit and healthy again, so that we can release them back into the wild, which is really lovely, very special. But one of the greatest privileges for us working with these turtles is being able to share the stories that they have, because most of these turtles have incredibly inspiring stories. Turtles are ocean ambassadors, and this is really valuable because they speak not only to the threats that our oceans face, but also to the resilience of our marine environment. So I want to share with you just a few lessons that these turtles have taught me personally, and maybe they can be of use to you. Firstly, journeys are zigzaggy and very unpredictable. It's none of these turtles' plan to end up with us. It's not part of their plan to get washed up in fishing gear, to eat plastic bags, to get hit by a boat. And yet, despite these big traumatic events, most of these turtles are able to get back on track and not just sort of survive, but to thrive and swim across oceans. This is amazing and really quite remarkable. And we can learn a lot from this. Curveballs give us opportunities to roll with the punches, to readjust our pathways, and to be flexible. So I think it's important for us to embrace the ups and downs of our own personal journeys as well. The next thing is we need to be resilient and patient. And I want to use the story of a turtle who's probably my favorite turtle. Her name is Sandy, and she washed up in 2016. She got hit by a boat and had 4 deep cuts across her shell. And Sandy's survival was a miracle because these cuts only just missed her spinal cord and her lungs. Even though Sandy was still alive, she was in incredible pain. Every breath was excruciating for her as these wounds were exposed. Over the following weeks and months, what we got to witness was resilience. Sandy did not stop and did not give up as we were injecting her, as we were tube feeding her, as we were debriding her and giving her the care she needed. She didn't give up and she didn't stop breathing. It took 2 years ultimately for her to heal, 2 years of patience before Sandy got to swim free. But she did. She got to swim free. We got to release her at the end of 2017. And when I think of Sandy swimming in the oceans, I am in awe of her resilience and her strength. And so sometimes I feel overwhelmed, I feel low, and then I try and think of Sandy. I try and think of her resilience and her patience and her resolve to not give up, and I try and channel my own inner Sandy. Thirdly, let's be authentic. And there's another turtle who I want to talk about here. And perhaps if you guys come to the aquarium, you can visit him. His name is Bob. Bob is an incredibly special turtle. And what's really cool about Bob is that his story speaks to plastic pollution. This is what Bob pooed out. So plastic bags and balloons. And Bob has become a powerful ambassador at the aquarium because of who he is. A turtle who loves back scratches and belly rubs and who's gentle and calm and happy to just hang out. This is powerful. When we are being true to our passions, when we're just completely ourselves, it sticks. It becomes it sits with people. Authenticity cannot be faked, and it's potent. So let's, like Bob, be our true selves. Lastly, let's be committed. Now, every year you heard the story of these little hatchlings that wash up, that we rescue. And these hatchlings are the greatest. You give them food and they just go for it and they get super excited and it's really lovely. But you can imagine the small little turtle emerging from the egg and all it has ahead of it is big bumps and a terrifying ocean. Yet that doesn't get in the way of these little guys. They are 100% committed as they scamper down to the sea and as they embark on their life. And I think this is a real lesson for me as well, that whatever we do, to be 100% committed to that task. I think it's really inspiring seeing these little turtles go through all of that and then realize that we can do the same. If I think back on my own story thus far and I think of what it is that I studied and what it is that I do today, I'm surprised by the things that are the same and the things that are quite different. I studied science at the University of Cape Town, where I learned to be a scientist. I learned to think, to observe, to ask questions, and find answers. And I use those skills every day when working with turtles, when trying to figure out what's wrong with them. But at university, I also learned soft skills. I learned to write. I learned to work in a team, to respectfully question authority, and to take initiative. It's those skills, more than any of the content I learned, that I use on a day-to-day basis. So in closing, I want to encourage you. If you have a clear passion, something you want to pursue, go for it. Be, like a turtle, authentic, resilient, passionate, and committed as you undertake that task. And if you don't have a clear passion, be curious. Think, explore, dabble. Try and work out what makes your mind explode and motivates you to work hard. Let's all try in our own lives to be like turtles as we figure out the ups and downs of our own unpredictable and very, very exciting adventures. Thank you.